for the wonderful introduction. I appreciate it. How's everybody doing?
Good.
How's everybody doing?
Good.
Okay, everybody have some fun?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, that's one of the first things that I've got a PowerPoint presentation, but I'm an improviser, so I'm going to say whatever comes up in the moment that I hope would be useful for you. Can you hear me okay? No.
Use the mic.
Okay, how's that?
Right.
So one of the things that we ignore as jazz improvisers or jazz students, when we perform, we just walk out on the stage and we don't have any kind of attitude. And so, I want to invite you, and if you work with students or yourself, get an attitude, a positive one, before you get on the stage. So for instance, my band played earlier today and I said, let's have some fun. What do you want from your audience? Try to connect. Who's the drummer I cited this morning? Matt Wilson talked about getting rid of the moat between the front row and the stage. So the more we engage and get together for this 15 minutes that we have together, I think the more we'll get out of it and the more fun we'll have. Okay? Okay. So Aaron already shared a little bit that I was hired as a full-time math teacher. My degrees are in mathematics, but I always loved music and I always loved playing creative music. But I didn't know anything about jazz, and my school needed more arts teachers, and I said, could I start a jazz course? And they said, sure. And I didn't know anything. They didn't know I didn't know anything, and we had a lot of fun that year. But the truth is, back in the 70s, there was not almost no material for jazz education. Jamie Abrams sold the book. I think he had 10 books that he sold only. And so I had to figure out a lot of things along the way, like, well, this isn't working, what can I do? So I wanted to share with you today some ideas that really have helped me and perhaps would help you about making it easier and more fun to learn jazz, okay? All right, so as I said, here's a QR code, and I'll put it up at the end of the thing for a free 30-day trial for Make Music Cloud. And there's another one for my website and YouTube channel. And there's a lot of cool stuff on there. Yes, and also my grandsons. Okay. All right. So this presentation is designed to inspire instrumentalists and vocalists with ideas that will help you, hopefully help you as a jazz improviser. So most jazz teachers talk about chord scales. The private teachers that I studied with talked about chord tones. And so that's where I'm coming from. And I had this amazing math professor, John Van Alstyne, and he was the best teacher I ever had. And he taught me a lot that I've transferred over to my music teaching. The thing that he said, simplify. If you have a problem that you don't like, break it into smaller pieces. And so that has really, really helped me. So the first thing that I would like to do for students is to have them master chord tones. But you don't have to master all the chord tones in one day. You do it a little bit at a time. And I'm going to walk you through a process. So everything I'm going to show you today is based on the foundation of learning chord tones. Simplify your approach and melodically build on your chord tone foundation by adding one concept at a time. And that's sort of most of what I'm going to share with you today. Learn by doing. Don't be reading out of a book and then, do it and then say, oh, yeah. Internalize the scales. So the exercise, we're going to show you some examples of some exercises, and my wonderful friend, who's a pretty good sax player, is Horace Alexander Young, is going to do some demonstrating. I don't know if any of you heard him and Aaron this morning. But, so anyway, internalize the skills. If you can do the exercise, don't pat yourself in the back, because now you take it and you apply it to something else. All right, and the last thing before we jump in is celebrate progress over perfection. This isn't a race. It's like, I got to do this. It needs to be fun. If you're not getting some kind of self-fulfillment or joy of playing, don't do it, right? You don't need it. So you want to make sure that you're enjoying the process as you go along. All right? So, beyond the notes, what can you bring to the music? One thing that sadly very few people talk about is your tone, your sound. That's the first thing people hear. They might not realize it, but that's the first takeaway. And so one thing that I invite you to concentrate on is developing the kind of sound or tone that represents who you want to be. And how do you do it? You steal. You go find people that you like. Howard Roberts said stealing from one person is plagiarizing, but stealing from several persons is research. So for instance, I'm a bass player, but I love Kenny Burrell's warmth. I love Cannibal Adderley's joy. I love a guy named Red Mitchell's just his approach, and of course Miles Davis, just their integrity and honesty. So I try to incorporate that in my playing. And eventually, Miles Davis said, it takes a long time to learn how to play like yourself. So as you go through, and this continues to evolve, find out what kind of sound makes you happy and expresses how you want it to sound. Okay. I lost my clicker. Okay. Imitate, assimilate, innovate. Clark Terry is known for that phrasing. There's a theory of learning that suggests you only learn to the extent that you role model. And this took me a long time to get behind, and now I really believe it. You've acquired your native languages at a deeper level by the age of 2, not through formal instruction, but simply by listening and imitating. And if you think about the way you learned how to speak your native language, you didn't go to a seminar, you didn't get a tutor, you just heard it. Our 3-year-old grandson, he can talk. How do you do that? I mean, we all did that. That's the best way to learn this language. Most of us don't have the patience, to really do that. And you can talk about theory after you don't need it. In other words, my 3-year-old doesn't know what a verb is, but he can speak. Yeah. This really helped me be a better teacher and a better player. It's called the Talent Code. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. This book came out by a guy named Daniel Coyle. Yeah. And he spent 18 months going around the world figuring out how people get masterful. And one of the examples is that he went to a classical music summer camp where Joshua Bell and Yo-Yo Ma went. And what they did is to simplify, if they were learning a concerto, they'd have to get scissors out and cut the concerto into all little pieces. And they'd have to put all these pieces on the wall with no sense of connecting them. And the rule they had is, if you can look at a piece that was on the wall and you can recognize the concerto it came from, get your scissors out and cut it smaller. So they went for mastery of maybe one measure at a time, and then they put it together. So this is a really different concept. Without getting too technical, I'll just try to be quick about this. It turns out that people get masterful at things not by the amount of talent they have, but by the coating of myelin that goes around your neural pathways. I know that's a very scientific term, but that's what Daniel Coyle says, and I believe it. So in other words, how do you get this myelin coating around your neural pathways? You do something, repetition, first of all, you do something over and over and over, making mistakes. The reality is if you play something accurately, I was going to say correctly, but let's say accurately, that's great, but you didn't learn anything. It's when you if you make a mistake, and again, let's not call it a mistake, if you do something that you hadn't intended, came out a different way. If you go back and say, figure it out, okay, how can I get to what I wish I had done? And you figure that out, that's amazing. That really, really is helpful. And Daniel cites a 13-year-old girl in New Zealand who went through this process, and he said she learned more in 15 minutes than most people would learn in a month of junior school practicing. Anyway, so those are some things you might want to check out, this book by Daniel Coyle. By the way, it takes, the bad news, I guess, it takes 10,000 hours to be masterful. And that's usually about 30, 40 years. But it doesn't mean like nothing's going on until you get 10,000 hours. It grows. Okay. All right, so now we're going to start a part of the presentation where I'm going to just demonstrate something that you could use to help beginners and perhaps more advanced students, or at least intermediate level students, to really master some things. And again, what I'm offering today is do less, but do it better. Don't try to do a whole bunch of stuff. Try to master a few things. It gets contagious. It gets easier to go on. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you some things on a slide, and then I'm going to ask Horace if it would show you what you could do after you get comfortable with it. So the first thing is, what can you do with one chord tone only? And all these are going to be applied to F blues. So here is the first exercise, and these are in Make Music Cloud. Make Music Cloud is amazing. It has backing tracks. It'll actually grade you if you're a teacher, if you want them to grade you. It'll give you feedback. It'll make the notes that you played accurately. It'll turn them from black to green. If you played an unfortunate pitch or rhythm, it'll put it on the screen in yellow or orange. You can do it as many times as you want. You can loop it, and if you're working with a teacher, you can submit it when you're ready. You can submit comments. It'll make an MP3 and screenshot. It's an amazing tool for teaching. So anyway, and I have 2 books out in Make Music Cloud, 2 improvisation books and 1 walking bassline book. Okay, so that looks pretty simple, and it is, but not for everybody. So if you can just play the roots, that's a good place to start. But make sure you do it with conviction. Make sure you make music out of it. It's just not, I did it, what do I do next? No, make it music. Either of these guys could play that and it would sound great, okay? Then you could learn all the thirds. Then you could learn all the fifths. And then you could learn all the sevenths. But do it one at a time. So that's from the program. I don't think we need to do this one. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So the next thing is, what can you do if you voice lead? So I had some teachers that really talked a lot about this concept of voice leading, and I don't hear many people talking about it. Voice leading refers to the smooth connection of melody notes when chords change. When a melody note referencing the harmony of a chord either remains stationary or moves in half or whole steps to a melody note of the next chord, good voice leading results. The goal isn't to voice lead everything you do, but most people don't know how to voice lead. So this is just a path, and by the way, the overall name of my series is Pathways Towards Greatness, not to greatness, towards it. And so yeah, as long as we're working on one chord tone at a time, let's see if we can voice lead. So here's an example. The one on the left is, you can see that it's, the roots in the first measure, and the voice leading to have you go to the next chorus, closest chord tone in the next measure, which happens to be the fifth. This doesn't sound that interesting because it stays the same, but it's very strong, and it's a good thing to do. The second one is voice leading, it happens to be the thirds and sevenths. And Horace, would you kind of show us that?
Yep.
Okay. By the way, there's 4 different versions of backing tracks on this series. Come on. It ain't working. There we go. Okay, any questions? All right, once we get to this, and again, if you could do that and you can read it. By the way, the reason I put rhythms that are repetitive is that I don't want students who are struggling to find pitches to have to struggle to find rhythms. So eventually the rhythms get a little more interesting, I guess you could call it. But the truth is, I keep the same rhythm for a whole course because I find that students, the rhythm is the last thing they think about, which is unfortunate because it's more important than pitches. You know, somebody's not going to remember what pitch you played the day after you heard them. They're going to remember how they felt. And that has to do with rhythm and dynamics and all sorts of things that are not pitches. So yeah, rhythm is really important. Anyways, so what I would have a student like, oh yeah, you've got this. Now make up your own rhythms, but make sure you try to learn the voice leading, okay? Okay, then what can you do if you play 2 chord tones per measure? Or yeah. So here's an example, root in the third, and you can see what that is, da 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 da. And then on the next page, it's voice leading, da 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 da. Okay, so that's something beginners don't really know about, and so that's why I think it's simple, but it's something they can get under their belt, so to speak, and really, really help them be strong players. You want to give it a go?
Sure.
Great. Okay. The next thing is passing tones. So if you've got your chord tones down, then you notice there's a gap between the root and the third and the fifth and the seventh. So we can stick a note in there. And of course, what it ends up with, these are actually playing scales. But the emphasis is still on chord tones. The thing I don't like about saying let's use this chord scale is that not every note in the chord scale is a good note, whereas every note in the chord tone is a good note. So you can use these as buffers to get from, and it doesn't mean that you can't play non-chord tones. I mean, you can do anything you want, that's the goal. The goal is to master things, so frankly you don't have to think about it. And that takes a long time. I don't know how many people reach it. I mean, I'm sure Sonny Rollins probably, he's done the 10,000 hours, I'm sure. By the way, can you think of a tune that demonstrated that last concept that probably a lot of you know? Ba 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 da 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 da, tenor manus. That's a perfect example of voice leading. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing is these passing tones, and what you can do for the student, if they're at this level. And by the way, this could take months to get to, or whatever. And I don't like the concept that you've got to master this before you go on. It would be nice to do that, but you got to do what's going to make you happy. And if you don't have the patience, do whatever you can that's going to help you. I guess the more mastery you could get before you go on, the better off you'll be. Okay, so the concept of forward motion. This is a big one, and I wish more people would talk about it. I'm so grateful and so fortunate to have been learned from Hal Galper, who was I taught at the Aebersold workshops for 40 years, and that and these IAJE, NAJE, and Gen conferences where I really learned the most. And Hal Galper took me aside and he taught me about this concept of forward motion. Basically, what it is that you want to put good notes in good places. Good notes are chord tones, good places are strong rhythms. The strongest rhythm, the strongest beat in a 4/4 measure is actually beat 1. So it's strongest to end your ideas on beat 1. That's exactly the opposite of how most of us play, and certainly how most of us teach and learn. And when you get to hear forward motion, basically a simple way of doing it is you're playing pickups. So Hal warned me that as you get to hear, and Hal said, this isn't about playing, this is about hearing. You want to change your hearing. And he warned me that once you start to hear people playing, forward motion, it's going to drive you nuts because so many people don't play forward motion. And it doesn't mean everything you do you have to have forward motion. That's ridiculous. But it's something that you want to be able to have available. So, here's an example of got voice leading and forward motion. You can see the pickups. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da, ba-da-da. Okay? Good note, good, strong notes, strong places. And it actually anticipates beat one. All right, and there's another example just of voice leading. So, Horace, you want to try to give one of these a go?
Sure.
The rhythm backing track was just bass and drums. Another backing track was B3 and drums. Another backing track was guitar, bass, and drums. And another backing track was piano and bass and drums, just to give you variety. The drummer is the same drummer all the way. And I've heard that the bass player is a good joke teller. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going anywhere else. Anyway. All right. Triads. So in other words, if you know one chord at a time and then two chords at a time, you could go to three chords at a time. Now, I've made a decision that we're not going to go to three chords at a time. I'm not going to study 3, 5, 7. Let's stick with triads. At this point, if you've got that kind of foundation down, you probably could easily extend it to the 7th. So anyway, we all know what triads are. And so can, you have a student learn how to play triads over chord changes. And again, the goal this isn't the end goal. This is just the starting goal. It's like, okay, I think I can do this. Give me another tune. Let me see if I can try it. And then you can voice lead triads. That's pretty cool. I actually did it this afternoon when we played. But I didn't sit there and I said, I think I'm going to voice lead these triads. It's just something I heard because it's been ingrained in me. So you want to give it maybe voice lead triads?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, what's next? 7th chord permutations. So permutation is just mixing up, in other words, root 3, 5, 7, 3, 7, 5, root, yada, yada, yada. How many know how many combinations can you make of 4 elements? This is the math teacher coming out at me. 24. And how many know the shortcut mathematicians would use for that? 4 factorial. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, Professor Van Alstyne. He sounds like a Seinfeld comedian, but he was an amazing human being, and I'm so grateful. He actually helped me get my job at Milton Academy. He told me that Milton Academy isn't open. Okay, so this one I didn't really get into, other than just laid out in the and you'll see the summary of the whole thing. You're just seeing a skeleton, but those are all the permutations. Are you going to be a bad person if you don't master all those 24 permutations? No. Would it be helpful to be able to do that? Yeah. So anyways, it's up to you to take it how you want it. But here's the foundation, and it's a blueprint, frankly. So yeah, there's the root position, there's the first inversion, there's just some other things. Okay. We're going to skip that. Okay, and this is the final. I'm struggling not to use the word approach because the name approach is the final method or something in my madness to try to make things simple so you can learn by doing and have fun while you're doing it, but it's very comprehensive, and I think you'll see that when I show you. So the next thing would be approach notes and enclosures. And here's the summary. Approach notes are actually notes that are tension. They're tension notes. Tension is actually incredibly valuable because without tension, everything is resolution. And resolution sounds nice, but it doesn't go anywhere. So we want to learn how to use tension to make our playing more musical. And this is a method to do that. I mean, it's, by the way, there's some business cards in the back, and you can help, you can take some. They're pretty cool. Again, my graphic designer wife, I'm so blessed. Anyways, so you can lower chromatic, upper chromatic, lower double chromatic, upper double chromatic, lower triple chromatic, upper triple chromatic, lower scalar, upper scalar. Not all of them sound good, but I invite you to try all of them, and you determine what you think sounds good, and you think what doesn't sound so good. Okay? And this gets kind of notey, but you can see that you're still playing chord tones, but now you're putting a half step below in this one. And the second part of it is playing upper scalar. By the way, I made the decision that upper chromatic, it generally doesn't sound so good, but you should try it, but I didn't put it in there. And lower scalar, a little bit better, but you should decide for yourself. Anyways, and then we go on to double chromatic, where you could do two, ba-da-da, ba-da-da, up or down. How are we doing? I think I'm going to move on, just because I think we have it by now. Could we give a round of applause to Horace Alexander? Quickly, I give so much credit to him because I heard him playing Abdullah Ibrahim's music on the radio, and I went nuts. Got out of the car, went to a payphone. That's so old, and I called up WGBH, and I said, "Who is that? What is that?" Yeah, see what I mean? And they told me, and I said, "I've got to check out this Abdullah Ibrahim guy." I got him to come to our school. He walked into a concert of our students playing his music, and he heard my students who actually won the Downbeat Award that year, and I was part of that. And he said, "You have to come to South Africa." And so my students have toured there 13 times, and I've been there 19 times. And it's an amazing experience. These guys can tell you, and there's some other people in the room that can tell you. Anyway, okay. So I want to make sure we get to a couple of other things. So then you can get, I'm doing that. No, I'm doing it. Why is this not moving? Here comes the part where, okay. Can you help me out here? I might have to reboot. Okay. I was using this. Oh, it is. So then what you can do is enclosure. So where it's still approach notes, but now you're using a note from above or a notes from above or a note or notes from below, and you kind of trap it. So you go ba-da-da-da, you know. So those are called enclosures. And again, it's just a way to learn how to, when you get on a bandstand, you don't say, well, I'm going to do my enclosure exercises now. I mean, the whole point is to gain it and make it part of your vocabulary. That takes time. The truth is, you know, we want to get someplace, and we want to get there as fast as we can. And most of us just kind of rush things. But if you really want to play at a high level, I promise you, you'll get there quicker if you do less, but you're masterful at it, because when you get to the end, you'll play much better. So be kind to yourself. Don't be in a hurry. Don't berate yourself if you're not getting it right away. It's fine. I'm sorry, Aaron, I'm going to tell the story. Aaron did not play very well when he started. I mean, I asked him if he could play a C triad, and he didn't know what it meant, so he played a Rachmaninoff piece. And his rhythm was not strong and just brittle, but he loved it, and he's a brilliant person. You knew he was going to go someplace, but yeah, and he didn't give up at all. So I hope it was okay to share that. He still hasn't given up. Okay. So here's a summary of, you know, what one of the improv books in Make Music Cloud would look like. It actually, if there's a blues, it starts out with minor pentatonic scales, solos, and again, it builds up. The first one is incredibly simple. The last one is probably challenging. Then I go to minor blues scales. Then I go to major blues scales, which a lot of people don't talk about. And that's pretty cool. You got to be careful with it, but that's very cool. And then you're learning and ingraining one chord tone. There's 4 exercises, and then the voice leading is 4 exercises. I actually think the voice leading didn't make it into the first one. I don't know if they put it in after the fact, but I blew it initially. And then you can do 2 chord tones at a time, and there's the internalizing 2 chord tones, using 2 chord tones with voice leading, using passing tones with voice leading. This is deep stuff, and it can be simple if you let it be, if you have the patience. And then learning and integrating 3 chord tones, triads only, through that, learning and integrating 4 chord tones, learning approach notes, and then there's the last chapter where we kind of just summarize as much as I can, and you go for it. So those are the improv books, and we're doing okay for time here. Let me just see if there's a couple of questions before we go on, because there's a series of walking bassline books. Any questions? Does this make sense, what I'm doing? Okay. I don't want to sound like I'm patting myself in the back, but I just have never seen anything like it that simplifies it this much and keeps what I hope is the fun factor. So I'm a big fan of this. I wish Make Music Cloud loves it, but it takes them a long time to do that. So if you like it, please go to Make Music Cloud and say, you know, this seems pretty cool. Can we have some more? Because I've got 5 more ready to go. And it takes them about 2 months to convert my finale file to make music.
I have a question.
Mr. Sinicrope?
Yes, Aaron.
Cindy, Bob, what do you think about the question of whether it's more important to learn to sing these exercises
Thank you.
versus read them off the page?
You must have had a great teacher.
Oh, thanks.
He's an old guy now and forgets a lot of stuff.
Bad jokes, but otherwise he was-
Absolutely. And I don't know if you saw it, but on the right hand of every exercise it said, listen, sing, play. Singing is, thank you so much. I need a nap, I guess. That is so important. Don't overlook. You don't have to be a good singer, but it's not about your singing or your playing. It's about your hearing. Hal Galper said, if you make, I'm going to use the word mistake, but he said if you make a mistake in your playing, it's not your playing. You made a mistake in your hearing. You know, if you really learn how to hear stuff and be able to play it, yeah, that's the goal. So thank you so much, Aaron. I appreciate it. And I had it written down on a sheet. And I forgot to do it. Anyway, okay.
I had a fast
Okay.
suggestion I was going to make. I've been assisting Bob with these exercises, and it's working with, obviously, with a play-along recording. But I would encourage you to encourage your students to turn the metronome on and do the same thing in time. And then they're depending on their ear and their fingers to coordinate all that stuff together. Now, amazingly, we've actually heard this about 50 years ago without knowing. That's the reason that tune sticks in your ear, because fundamentally it's the very same thing that he's suggesting in this book that you start with. And kids have sung along on that record for more than 50 years. Everybody in the room recognizes it, right? So that's right there in the pocket. It's a great teaching tool.
E. Edwin Gordon, I don't know if any of you know his name, great music expert. He teaches 9-month-olds to sing. And he's teaching them improvisation. They don't know it. They're just copying what he sings to them. Okay. So there's a series of walking bassline books, and there's 6 about. One of them is in Make Music Cloud, but there's 6 of them published by Chuck Scher. We actually have the most recent ones that just came out, and I'm going to be selling them at a discount for $26. I'll sell it for $20. They use the same concepts. So I want to go through that quickly because there's a couple of other things I want to get to. So again, if you're walking bass at Jamie Ingersoll's, we would have this weekend workshop that was precursor to the week-long workshop. Thank you, Aaron. Aaron's going to Haiti. Yeah, where he goes a lot. Okay, and so we would have people, come to the placement on Saturday morning. We're trying to get them ready to play in combos on Monday morning, and sometimes we'd get people say, I'm so excited. I bought a bass on Thursday, and I can't wait to play. And I'm thinking, okay, we're going to need a surgeon, because of the no calluses. And then he said, well, what can I do? And we had to get him to function. So came up with a system where I'm going to go through this. We already went through forward motion, but if all you can, this has had tablature. So a lot of young people don't like to read traditional music. So everything in the bass book has tablature. Can you just play the roots? So some people may say, well, that's boring. Yeah, Ray Brown could play it and make you tap your toe. So if it's boring, it's on you. You can have fun with this. And again, you bring love and joy to it and play it with vigor. Okay, well, if you can do that, then you can do a lower chromatic. Oh, that's not that hard, especially for an electric bass player. Then you can do a double chromatic. Whoops. You can do, whoops. You can do a lower double chromatic. Oh, that's just one more step. You can do a triple lower chromatic, which bass players play all the time. Boom, ding, 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 ding. It's simple, and they can function. So, that was a great way to just use roots. Now, the other things about lower chromatics and approach notes and all are in chapter 1, but I'm just giving you a flavor of what is different about the bass books. And by the way, a lot of piano players are using this too, and guitar players. Okay, then you can add the 5th. So, notice I didn't say add the 3rd. So for a bass player, the 5th is the note you want to add. And again, there's some examples, and as they go on, they do chord tones and approach notes and all sorts of stuff. And you could add the 5th too. These are summaries, the last part of each chapter. It's just to give you an overview. Add the 7th. And here's a summary of, then once you get through adding the 5th, adding the 3rd, and adding the 7th, then we go to patterns. And so this is some to take the A-train summary patterns. And then there's 2-bar patterns. So that's the next thing. And then this is a really cool thing. And some of the books, like C minor blues, has 3 extra chapters, because it has minor cliches and all sorts of. So the general approach is the same, but they're flavored to whatever the tune demands. And C minor is the most interesting, by the way. C minor blues. That was the hardest one. Anyway, what's cool is that for players who are experienced, the last 18 chapters are how would Ron Carter play this? How would Miroslav Vitous play this? How would Pops Foster? And so it goes back and sort of traces a general summary of bass players going from, 150 years ago to maybe not 2026, but it ends with Miroslav Vitous and Charlie Hayden. And we just tried to capture their style in here. Is Brian Casey in the room? Okay, Brian popping in because he's got a lot of other things. He's one of my editors, and he's really helped me. Anyway, so those are the bass books, and here's the outline of what is in a bass book. This is the C minor one, which I think is the most interesting one. You can get them at Amazon, you can get them through Chuck Share, and there's a digital version, and there's a printed book. And there's a lot of, the older books had hyperlinks, lots of hyperlinks. This time they made me take the hyperlinks out, but there's a lot of supplementary material, and my genius wife figured out how to get them to you. So those are books that, can help you. I really would like to just get through another couple of things that are really helpful, and we only have a minute here. River of Rhythm. And Guy and Jim Ripa were kind enough to come to my house a couple of days and sort of preview this, and they just said, lose 2/3 of your slides. So I did, but if you go to my website or YouTube channel, we're gonna post this when we figure out how to do that in the YouTube channel, so you can access it. So if you take QR codes that I'll put back up, you can access this and the other supplemental stuff. So I just want to talk about this river of rhythm. So when I went to Jamie's, I had no business being there, but I think he saw the light in my eye that I was so eager. So it was the first time he hired a second bass teacher. And the first year everybody was nice to me, and the second year he said, my back hurts when I play hip hop. A number of people that I respect, and I said, okay, I believe you. You know more than I do. He said, what can I do? I said, well, I don't know, but So what I did is I figured out it was my hearing, it wasn't my playing. And a guy named Howard Roberts, who started the Guitar Institute of Technology, I kind of borrowed what he did. And he created this exercise that I call River of Rhythm. And basically, you play for 10 minutes, non-stop eighth notes, a metronome marking 60. And that can be really hard. It's hard to make it feel good. But if you make it feel good, it's great. So it's a great way to learn. And I did that 10 minutes at a time. I actually did it 4 times a day. I did it twice in upright, twice in electric. Howard Roberts suggests 3 times a day. I think it's important to do something in the morning, afternoon, and evening, not morning. Anyway. And then the next week, I picked a different tune to improvise on. I stepped it up to 66. After 7 weeks, you started using eighth note triplets. And after the 15th week, if I had made that, you alternate quarter notes, eighth notes and eighth note triplets. By the time I got to week 14, I was playing at metronome marking 150, 3, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and I was afraid my hand would fall off. So I stopped there. But I went back to Jamie's that summer, and it was like they looked at me and said, well, I don't know who you are, but can we play again tomorrow? It really, really changed my musical relationship with hearing. It wasn't my playing. My playing is a result of hearing. So that's an exercise that's got about 6 or 7 slides if you chose to do it. It's a guarantee, by the way. It's a guarantee to make your playing better. Because the hearing of subdivisions is so important. What else is there? Oh, ditch the pitch. We focus so much on pitches. Forget about pitches. Take any tune you want. Play any pitches you want, but focus on any rhythms you want. Focus on making interesting rhythms. Again, here's a simplification for a beginner. It's like, I can't figure out pitches and rhythms. Okay, the heck with the pitches, or the heck with the rhythms. You just take turns. Random chords. So these are other kinds of exercises that I don't have time to get through. But I hope they whet your appetite. And again, I just started, retired after 51 years of teaching at Milton Academy, and I'm going nuts because I love teaching. It gives me such joy, and I learn so much. So I'm starting an online private lesson workshop that if you want more, please consider me. Yeah, so that's all we're going to have time for. We have time for maybe a question or two. You all mastered this, right? Yeah. It's if nothing else, the takeaway today is simplify, repeat until you get some level of mastery. If you can do these exercises, you don't really have anything until you can do it away. It has to take ownership. You have to own it. So don't try to do a whole lot. Try to do a little bit, but do it great and have fun doing it.
On your rhythm exercise, were you doing a metronome on 2 and 4, say, and then doing the
You can do whatever you want. You could do that, you could play with a metronome. A lot of guys like to put metronome on, the end of 3 or something, but it's a real challenge to do that. Yeah, there's no shortage. But the thing is, people want to have success. So make sure if you're trying, I want to do this, make sure that it's likely that if you give yourself 15 minutes, that you can get somewhere in 15 minutes. Because the last thing you want to do is say, I'm going to do this in 15 minutes, and then not do it. And then you're going to feel bad about yourself. So you want to structure things so you feel, so you have success. Okay? Anything else?
Hey Bob, do you get into triad pairs at all?
Did I what?
Triad pairs. You get into
Yes. Yeah. Maybe, I'm not sure if it's the way that you're thinking of, but there are triad pairs, but we could talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm now the presider, and I want to thank myself. I made a joke and said I'm going to give the trophy to myself. Here it is. Oh, here, Mom, look. Thank you to our help here, and thank you to Guy and Horace. And we're going to stick around for a little bit. We want to be respectful. There's probably somebody coming in an hour.
This is the last one.